Hello, and welcome to Unit 5 of MBA 6103, Managing Innovation. This week, we will discuss decision making as well as the steps necessary to create a business case for innovation within your organization. The previous units, we have discussed how to search out and find opportunities for innovation, either externally in the external environment or internally, the internal environment within an organization. We're moving forward in the innovation strategy process, and now that we have located or searched and found opportunities for innovation, now we're concerned with selecting which innovations or innovation opportunities we want to pursue, and then we'll move forward and determine how to implement those innovations. For this unit, we will focus on selecting or creating a case, building a case for innovation. And this is one of the most challenging parts or components of innovation within an organization, is selecting which projects or which innovation products or services that you want to pursue. Part of that is garnering support, is securing support for particular innovation processes, and getting folks within the organization to buy into the innovations that you want to pursue, the projects that would be right for the organization and that would best fit the opportunities that you've searched and located. So we're going to focus this week on selecting what we're going to do and why. And a significant component of that is, how do we build a case, or how do we make the case for innovation within our organization? This week we cover chapters 7 and 8 of the textbook, and you'll see that chapter 8 focuses on the business plan and kind of making the case, building a case for innovation. And that's what we're really going to focus on this week, is how do we secure support? How do we get ready to move forward with the implementation? Because there is this line between selecting and implementing. There is a point where obviously it gets a little blurred. Very similar to what we did here with searching and selecting. We started out a kind of a wide search process and we narrowed it down. Well, then as we get closer to selecting the innovation, that line becomes a little bit blurred. The same is true here. Once we've gotten to the point where we've just about selected what we're going to do and we've garnered support for that particular innovation or that project, we're already sort of entering the phase of implementing. And so there's going to be a little bit of an overlap here, especially when it comes to putting together some type of plan, project plan, business plan, to actually make this project happen. So that's what we'll focus on this week. A significant challenge for many projects, new ventures, is securing support. And securing support for a project, comes in many forms. Financial support, managerial support, administrative support. Could be regulatory or government support. We're talking about a lot of different ways that new innovations could kind of run into roadblocks. And so it becomes the responsibility of kind of the champion of the innovation or the product or service that we're wanting to introduce, becomes the responsibility of that champion to really secure that support and really make the case for implementation. And so there's a lot of reasons that we do this, a lot of reasons that we actively pursue support for our projects. Part of that is it helps us manage our financial resources. Securing support helps us manage financial resources and secure financial resources. Helps us with project planning and project implementation, which is what we'll be moving into in the next phase of our innovation strategy. Project monitoring, which is the final phase here. How do we capture benefit from it and continue to capture sustainable benefits from it? And then we will be talking about, again, the business plan. And I know that business plan is a term that is probably overused in schools of business, in business school, business education. You know, we have a tendency to over-focus on business plan. And so obviously there are formal ways to write a business plan, and we're going to talk about that. But there's also a strength in being able to create a kind of a pseudo business plan, or a scaled down version of a particular product or venture, a plan for a venture, a plan for a product or a service. And we'll be talking about that this week. Okay, so the first thing that we look at when we're trying to create or trying to make a case for a bit of innovation or a new venture or a new product or service is understanding the stages of funding. And these stages are going to be the same if we're talking about a new startup company, that if you're interested in doing something yourself innovatively as an entrepreneur, you're going to go through these stages. Or if you're focused on innovation within the organization, as possibly like an entrepreneurial type of project, whereas you have this idea and you are kind of moving forward, you've searched out opportunities and you're looking to drive innovation within your company, within your own organization, and build it internally rather than doing it yourself outside as an entrepreneur, you're still going to go through similar stages of funding. Now, it's not that we're simply looking at innovation as something that you've got to go out and do on your own as an entrepreneur. Go start your own company and get some startup money and come up with a new product or idea and grow it yourself. Because the same is true of innovation within the organization. As I've said before, we kind of look at innovation from both the entrepreneurial perspective and the intrapreneurial perspective, because innovators have that same type of mentality. They want to create something new product, new service, new ideas, grow those product, services, ideas. And so they're really kind of looking for that right environment, that right climate to do that. We've talked previously in the previous weeks about fostering an innovative environment and an environment of creativity, a climate of creativity and new ideas and that sort of thing. So the same is true of once we've found those opportunities for innovation, once we've found a way to, or a place or an idea or product or service, an opportunity for innovation, we have to build support for it. We have to get funding for it to be able to develop it and launch it. And that involves understanding these stages of funding. So when we originally talk about the first stage of funding for a new product, new service, new venture, or some type of innovation is kind of the seed money, the startup money. Many times, if this is internal to the organization, it might simply take getting some budget funding to try to develop this idea. maybe some internal resources, some human capital, some personnel to help drive whatever product, service, or idea you select for to pursue. That's usually obviously right at the beginning. And the same is true if you're trying to start up a company on your own. You need that initial funding, that kind of seed money, that startup money to get the ball rolling, so to speak. Then you'll have another stage of funding, typically during the development, the growth, and possibly the initial launch of this innovation. As the idea begins to take shape, the innovation or the product or service begins to kind of solidify and starts to go somewhere, and you get ready to actually develop it and then eventually launch it and it become a part of the organization. Or if you were doing this externally as an entrepreneur, get ready to actually have a product to sell, you've got to be able to fund that. Then after the launch of the innovation, the product, the service, the venture, you're going to, if it goes the way you hope and continue and grows the way that we would obviously want it to, there's going to be a need for funding during the expansion and growth stage. If you think back to the product life cycle, we know that we have this kind of rapid growth phase of products being adopted and becoming more mainstream. And again, that has to be funded as well. And then as the product or service, the venture moves into the mature stage, we typically see another round of funding to support it during the maturity stage, and then finally the exit stage, once the product or service venture is replaced by something else or becomes the need to close things down and move on to something, a different type of product or service or venture. So we typically see that resources need to be allocated to these types of projects in these 5 phases. Right at the beginning to get it going, during the significant development or launch of the innovation or the product or service, during the growth, the maturity, and exit. So those are the things we've got to consider when we're trying to make a case, when we're trying to build a case for this particular innovation that we're selecting. We've got to be able to think about, okay, when do we need funding, at what stages, and obviously we've got to consider the type of funding and the amount. And I put these slides in here because when you're trying to secure support, when we're trying to make a case for innovation, we've searched out opportunities, we've narrowed it down, we've selected a few opportunities, and we're going through the process, kind of the political process of securing support, getting buy-in from administration, getting buy-in from management or the board, or budget, the resources from the CFO to pay for the innovation to develop it. We've got to be able to secure support. So we've kind of got a list here of do's and don'ts of securing support for your innovation. Obviously, the first thing is we've got to focus. When you're trying to secure support for your company or for your innovation or your new venture, your new product, service, idea, we've got to focus. We've got to be focused on the specifics. You don't keep things too broad, because when we're trying to secure resources, when we're trying to decide on exactly which innovation opportunities we want to pursue, we've got to be focused on our objectives and our goals and what we want to accomplish. we have to know our audience. Who are we trying to convince? Who are we trying to secure support from? Is it the CEO? Is it the CFO? Is it a particular team or maybe an engineering group that we're going to need help with creating this particular innovation? And so we have to tailor our pitch, how we kind of promote the idea internally to the organization, or again, if we're entrepreneurs, externally to investors. We have to know who we're talking to and be able to tailor our pitch accordingly. If we can get references, if we can get a referral, get someone to lend support to our cause, if we can get maybe the chief operating officer and he or she supports what we're trying to do, or maybe the CFO, we've already got support from them and they can actually refer or lend support to our case as well, either through an advisory board or through a part of the project team or whatnot. If we're going on our own and doing the entrepreneurial route, we'll obviously want legal counsel. Kind of these last three are some of the most important. We really need to know the secret to the innovation that we're trying to pursue. We've done the work. If you think back to the diagram of the innovation strategy, we've already searched out opportunities. Okay, and so in the process of selecting and securing support to implement this innovation, we've got to know the secret. The secret might be it might be an emerging market. It might be a new target audience. It might be a new target group. It might be a new type of customer or a new use for our product. So we really have to know the secret to the innovation that we're wanting to pursue. In addition to knowing the secret about our innovation is going to make it different than competitors, or going to make it kind of the next big thing for our organization, we also have to put together a solid plan. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a formal business plan, but we've got to have a solid plan that shows management, executives, investors, board members, the folks that we have to get support from, shows them that we've really considered this and we've spent the time searching the opportunities and selecting the innovation that we want to pursue, and we have a plan to implement. When we're securing support, we've got to be specific about our funding needs, especially if getting support from the CFO or anyone controlling budget types of items, or it may be investors, whatever it might be. They want to know specifics. We don't want to go to them with, well, we just need, and be able to say, well, we need a lot of money. We need to be very specific about the phases of funding, what we're going to need, the resources that it's going to take to pursue the innovation that we have selected. And in addition to the do's that we just listed of securing support, there's also some don'ts, some things we don't want to do when we're trying to get support from departments within the organization, or again, if we're doing this as an entrepreneur, as our own enterprise. The list of don'ts is kind of the same. When we're trying to secure support, financial support, we don't want to be unrealistic about any type of financial projections. We don't want to arbitrarily project revenue that is unrealistic expenses that are unrealistic, or the market. We don't want to overstate or understate the market for our product. We want to be realistic about any type of projections, because those are going to obviously be realized at some point or another. We're going to have to compare actual performance to projected performance. We don't want to be general or generic about our targets, either our sales targets or the markets that we're aiming to serve. We want to be very specific. If the innovation that we've selected or that we're selecting is a more of a niche type of product or a niche service with a very limited target market, we want to make sure and clarify that when we're trying to secure support for our venture. We don't want to focus on any type of intellectual property or proprietary technology at the cost of consumer usage. We don't want to limit our market by focusing too much on proprietary technology. Because when we're talking about innovation, if we think back to searching out the opportunities, we can find all kinds of very, very small niche markets that might use a particular specialized product or specialized type of technology. Yet, if we focus too much on specialization and limit the amount of usage that the consumer has within a product or service, then the market becomes so small for that it's not really worth it. Non-disclosure agreements, it doesn't, it's very difficult to secure support for a new venture or an innovation or a new idea if everyone that you're trying to secure support from, you ask to sign a non-disclosure agreement. If we ask everyone to agree not to tell anybody about what we're trying to do, then it's very difficult to secure support for our idea. We don't want to ignore the immediate, because internal to the organization, if we're looking at some type of entrepreneurial product or service or venture, there's obviously going to be a concern for the immediate revenue enhancement, immediate growth, immediate sales targets. When we're trying to gain support, it's difficult to get support for an innovation or a new product or service idea that won't be ready to take to market or won't be something that we can implement for 8, 9, 10 years. Because if we start doing that, then we're simply looking at R&D, research and development. Just tinkering with things, hoping that something pans out in the future. With innovation, with these new ventures in products and services, we have already identified an opportunity. Now we've selected the innovation to meet that opportunity. We've got to be able to implement in a manner that converts to revenue and revenue streams much more quickly than saying, well, we're just going to go experiment with this new technology for the next 5 or 6 years and in hopes that something turns up out of it. We really want to be able to say, this is what we're going to do and focus on. We already know that we have this technology, that technology, we have this capability, that capability. We have an opportunity over here. Let's convert all of these different things into a new innovation, product or service that we can take to market a little bit quicker than simply research and development. And obviously, we don't want to avoid talking about competition. We've got to have an open discussion about competition, because we know that if we develop an innovation or a new product or service, especially a new service, it's just a matter of time, and many times a very short period of time, before our competitors will try to replicate or do the same thing, or even improve upon our product or service to our consumers. And so we've got to have a frank discussion about competition, and talk to the people that we're trying to secure support from about what is our plan to remain competitive. And with that, we'll put a list here of the elements that we typically find in a business plan. Now, in business school, whether it's MBA program or undergrad business school, at some point or another, you almost always run across a discussion about a business plan. And typically in undergrad business school, you probably wrote one, and perhaps in some of your other MBA classes, you might have kind of dabbled in certain elements of the business plan as well. You've probably looked at things like SWOT analysis, other types of market analysis tools. You've probably looked at other business modeling tools, financial planning tools. But really, the business plan is kind of one document that brings a lot of these things together. Now, theoretically, the idea behind the business plan is to start, let's say you have an idea, or you want to start your own business, or you want to go out and raise money, secure funding for your own business, or something of that nature. And all you have is an idea or kind of a concept. In order to convey to potential investors or creditors, whether you're trying to raise money, if you're trying to raise money from investors, from private investors, you've obviously got to show them that you know what you're talking about, and you got to be able to convey that idea on paper. If you're trying to secure a loan or secure funding from a creditor, a bank, many times you see the same type of thing. And so if you start with no existing business model at all, the idea is to put together a business plan and take it around and show folks, to explain to them what you're trying to accomplish, and somebody will either invest in your company or give you the initial funding that you need to get started. This doesn't exactly happen this way all the time, because many small businesses, we find, will go out and raise a small amount of money, whether it's from loans from family or friends, or savings, maybe an entrepreneur takes their own savings and starts their own business very small and kind of grows it for a little while. And then once it's grown for a year or two, and you can show some revenue and that you're successful in a business on a small scale, then you can take those financial reports and that business model to investors or a bank and get additional funding to grow. That's many times we see that's how small businesses start. I mean, it's not always a plan or an idea that simply start on paper. But a business plan is fairly common, and the idea behind a business plan obviously is to be able to convey to folks what you're trying to accomplish and how. And this tool, the business planning tool, is something that can be quite effective when we're trying to make a case for innovation or a new product or service within our company. And so many of these elements will be the same. Obviously, you'll have a title page, an executive summary, which basically summarizes the whole plan on one page. We've got to include the business model and our financial goals. In other words, how are we going to make money? We got to include some analysis of the market. the solutions that are available, either technology or other products or services, what our sales plan is, how do we plan on actually achieving sales goals, what our operational plans are, how are we going to run the organization, who's going to manage the organizational design, and then the funding milestones and any projections that we might have. And so many of these components we can include in kind of what I would call a kind of pseudo or a slimmed down, kind of a toned down version of a business plan as we're putting together an innovation plan or an innovation implementation plan. We're trying to explain to other people what we're trying to do and how. We might not spend as much time on certain elements of this, and we can kind of pull some elements out, but we can kind of slim this down just a little bit, kind of tone this down to become an innovation plan, because so many of our innovations are come in the form of new products, new services, new ideas, different business models, those types of things. So if we can take the business plan and kind of use it as a model for gaining support to make the case for innovation, then it's just that much more effective. So I skipped over the title page and executive summary because most of you know what those are. But the next kind of part down there is the business model and the financial goals. We have to, when we're incorporating this into some type of plan, we have to be able to demonstrate a revenue model. With this innovation or with this new product or service or new business, if you're creating a business plan, we have to be able to demonstrate where this particular idea or concept or innovation, where and when it's going to generate revenue. And this is a kind of a common problem with some of the new innovative companies and some of the new innovative ventures that we see today. Companies like Facebook, companies like Twitter, even Google, kind of early on in the beginning struggled with this a little bit. It obviously doesn't struggle with it now, but Facebook and Twitter still have a little bit of a challenge. Even Pandora, the internet radio, has a little bit of a challenge with this. Is being able to demonstrate a model that generates a significant amount of revenue or enough revenue to justify the business itself. When you're in the business that Twitter and Facebook are in providing a kind of a free social networking or free communication tool, then it becomes a challenge to be able to show that you can generate revenue. And so obviously they resort to advertising. Facebook obviously has resorted to advertising to generate revenue. Whereas early on, the idea was it wasn't about generating revenue. And obviously it has to, as a public company, as a publicly traded company, at some point or other, you've got to be able to show that you're generating revenue. And so that's something that we've got to be able to convey to the people that we're trying to get support from, is at what point does this innovation generate revenue? How does it generate revenue? And is the revenue stream that this business model, that this innovation is going to generate, is that revenue stream substantial? Does it justify the investment in the innovation that we're trying to make? We've also got to have some type of R&D, some type of research and development strategy. I mean, are we going to continue to, once we've got this innovation going, are we going to be able to continue to fund money, put additional money into development of additional innovations or products and subproducts and additional services? we've got to have some type of strategy for production and manufacturing. If we're creating a new product, how are we going to create it? How is it going to be manufactured? Are we going to outsource that? Are we going to do that offshore? It's a different country. Is it going to be built here? Where is it going to be located? Are we going to have a manufacturing facility, a plant? How are we going to distribute this product or service? And obviously, we've got to put together some financial goals. What do we hope to accomplish? A particular return on our investment, a particular growth in sales, number of units sold, that type of thing. I mean, how do we measure our performance? As part of the business plan or the innovation plan, we've got to have some level of market analysis. I mean, by now you've seen Michael Porter's 5 forces analysis. You've done SWOT analysis, I'm sure. And all of those kind of tie back to market analysis. And we address that so much in business school, MBA programs, and undergraduate schools of business, because it is such a significant component of being able to develop strategies, manage an organization. If you cannot assess or analyze your industry, the market that you are trying to serve, then you're obviously going to have trouble. You're going to have a difficult time being successful in your organization. So the market analysis component of our business plan should include a pretty detailed description of our industry, the target segments for our industry, the size, growth rates. Are we planning to see growth in the particular market that we're serving? If you're in the healthcare business, maybe it's mobile healthcare or home healthcare, or maybe particular pharmaceuticals industry, or even medical equipment, then you're probably looking at this saying, well, we're going to probably see growth for a few more years as more and more of the baby boomer generation gets older and continues to need health care and doctors and medical devices and medicines. So we need to be able to look at that, not only what is the market like today, but what is the market going to be like years from now? Are we spending time developing a product or service, an innovation for which the market is going to be non-existent in 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years? Instead, we'd be focusing on a different type of innovation. A great example of this is obviously the textbook publishing, not just college textbook, but I should say all print media, the publishing industry. Trying to address or assess what is the future market for print media. Kind of looking at that and going, well, we know that a few years from now, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, we're going to continue to see less and less print media, more and more digital media, and more, obviously, the ability to convert what would be print media to digital space, being able to take your digital or your what would be print files, your books, your emails, your PDF files, magazines, all that stuff, obviously with you on your smartphone, your Kindle, your iPad, whatever tablet you choose to use. And that really, again, continues to diminish the size of the market for print media. So that's something that obviously the publishing industry would be considering. Part of our market analysis should include, what is our customer profile? What is the need that we're trying to fill? If it's a knowledge push or needs pool, and a competitive assessment. Who are our competitors? Kind of like the SWOT analysis or the 5 forces analysis. What existing products and services are out there that are going to be something that we're either trying to replace or compete directly with. And we should already be able to do this quickly because we've done the search part of our innovation diagram. We've already searched out and we've identified opportunities. And as part of that, we've probably already looked at the competition. And then obviously developing solutions, the technology, product, services, what's available. And then on top of that, what is our own product strategy? If we're developing a product, what's our strategy, our product strategy? Again, looking at what's currently available with competitors, what other products, services, what technologies out there, and how does that tie to what we're trying to do with our product strategy? Our own product or service design, the design of what we're trying to do. Be very specific about our own, product or service, how it's unique, what this innovation is. This is where we really get to talk about the innovation itself, the distinguishing kind of characteristics of our innovation as compared to existing products, services, and technologies. Some things that are already out there that we can either use or we can that can supplement what we're trying to do. But most importantly, how our product or service, what makes this innovation, what makes it an innovation? What makes this particular product or service an innovation? We'll need to include some type of sales plan. I mean, we've already talked about the market analysis, but how do we plan on selling this product or service? How does it fit into the overall strategy of the organization and become a successful product line, or become a successful part of the organization's portfolio? Again, kind of going back to what you've already seen in like the 5 forces, Michael Porter's 5 forces analysis, understanding the relationship with any suppliers that we're going to have as we develop new products and services and become more innovative. I mean, it's probably going to involve relationships with some suppliers, additional relationships with customers, because if there are there's hopefully a market for this innovation that we're looking at implementing. That might be a different subset of customers. How do we serve those customers? I mean, how do we maintain that relationship, manage that relationship? How do we manage relationship with any types of suppliers? How do we maintain production and order fulfillment? I mean, if it's a product that we're trying to get, a new product for us that we're trying to get from point A to point B, how do we handle the delivery of that? And the last part of a strong business plan, or in this case, innovation plan, would be to really identify the folks involved. Who is going to be on this team, this implementation team, now that we've selected an innovation? Who's going to help drive this? The team who's going to help manage it? Who's going to be involved on the staffing side of it and help with sales, help with order fulfillment, delivery, customer service, all those things that we just talked about? Do we need to have any outside board of experts, consultants, advisors, any other directors, folks that we need to have involved with this particular project and implementing this project. We've already searched out the opportunities. Now we've selected the innovation, and we're getting to close to the point of trying to implement. So do we have anyone else that needs to be involved that we have, I don't want to say forgotten about, but that we might not have their support yet, that we need to go out and get their support? And the last two things, when we're trying to deliver a formal document to gain support from the people that we need to about our innovation, is don't forget to include a discussion about milestones. How do we know if we're on track? Funding milestones. We know we got approval from the CFO to get some budget resources to kind of pursue a new innovation, new idea, product or service. But what are the milestones that we need to reach to be able to go back and say, okay, we've got that accomplished, and we need some more resources, or we're ready to sell the first product, sell the first unit, or we're ready to offer this service now to the first customer. So what are those milestones that we need to reach in order to continue? Because we've got to constantly be making our case. Just because we make our case in the beginning and we get some people on board with this new product or service or idea, this new innovation, it doesn't mean they're always going to be on board. If we don't perform, if we can't demonstrate that we're actually doing things and actually reaching milestones, then they're going to lose their support very quickly. So we can't forget to include those things. So as we move forward, we're going to be talking more and more about the actual implementation. This week was kind of a cross between selecting and building a case for innovation, gaining support to move forward, getting ready to implement, and then actual implementing, which is where we're going to be going next. How do we, now that we've searched out opportunities and identified opportunities for innovation, we've selected some opportunities and we've started garnering support, gaining support to go innovate and come up with these new products or services or new ideas. The next thing is actually doing it. How do we actually implement? And that's where we're moving toward in the weeks ahead.